Welcome back, everyone, to this week's 5th edition of Bruce Monnin's Computer Points podcast. I am Bruce Monnin, your host, reporting from our studio in Minster, Ohio, home of the upcoming Minster Oktoberfest. Also checking in from the greater Cincinnati area, home of those 3-2 Cincinnati Bearcats who lost by 3 points to Texas Tech after missing a last-second long field goal, and who all of us Bearcat fans, before he ever kicked it, knew was going to miss. Rebekah nods her head in agreement.
It's just not in our habits and our practices to win in the last second. It's always a loss.
It does feel that way. We used all our luck up in one football season.
Mm-hmm.
But as you heard, our co-host, executive producer, and chief researcher, Rebekah Monnin, is back.
Always happy to be here.
We'll start with this week. There were fewer changes to our team's playoff statuses. Does that sound right? Or would it be stati?
I think it depends on the Latin root. I've never heard anyone say stati, so I'm going to guess it's statuses.
All right, we'll go with that. Fewer changes to those than I expected this week. And I personally think that was because, to some extent, of the weather, which resulted in closer games than we would otherwise have had. You know, with all that mud out there, there just weren't as many points scored in most cases. Now, if you watch your sci-fi, if the singularity had occurred, the one that allows machines to start thinking for themselves and become sentient, the one that analyzes high school football would have thought, for some reason, all these teams seemed closer together than we thought before. But now, it was just the weather, I think. I don't think the machines were wrong.
Dang, weather confusing our robots.
And that's okay, because our robots need to be confused every now and then, I believe.
Be careful. If you start being mean to them, you'll be the first to go in the robotic uprising.
Yeah, I'm probably doomed.
Yeah, your odds aren't great.
I'll worry about that when the time comes. Or I won't. I'll be gone before I get a chance. Hard to tell.
I have to say, in an apocalypse scenario, I would rather be one of the first ones out than one of the last ones.
It does sound like the way to go, doesn't
it? Yeah.
Anyway, this week with our second year of 16 teams per region in the playoffs? Maybe third, I can't keep track. Second feels right.
I feel like that's something we should know.
You would think we should know that. It all just runs together when you get to be old. But anyway, there are many more teams still in postseason contention this late in the season than there used to be. You know, usually by now we could say, oh, this team's out of contention, and then we don't have to talk about them the rest of the year. That's not happening anymore, so we still have lots of teams to talk about here. There may occasionally be some where their odds of making the playoffs are really not good at all that we don't mention here. If you miss hearing about your team, let us know, and we will mention them in our fan question section next time.
We always enjoy talking about other teams, and I enjoy getting to quiz Dad on where they're at and who their mascots are, and if he knows anything at all about teams not in the West Central Ohio area.
You might all be thinking at home, what fan question section? Well, guess what? We received a note from a listener this week, Cale Herdman. And Cale says, hey, Bruce, love the weekly podcast. By the way, everyone else, that's a solid start to a note.
You'll get on the podcast just by interacting with us, but we do enjoy a compliment.
Cale says, based on how the rankings look now, if Mechanicsburg were to hopefully finish 9-1 with good wins over Fairbanks, West Liberty, Salem, and Northeastern, do you think they could squeak into a top 4 seed? Or what would they need for that to happen? Well, Cale, normally I would address this when we get to Region 23, but in order to encourage more fan questions, we will highlight it right here. At the moment, I project that if Mechanicsburg ends the season 9-1, they would finish with the number 5 seed and 16.75 computer points. To move up to the top 4, Mechanicsburg would need Fort Fry to lose 2 games, which I rate as possible but not very likely, or for Newcomers Town to lose to Malvern next week. which is more likely as Newcomers Town is only a touchdown favorite in that game. So there you go. Mechanicsburg, probably number five. Outside shot at number four if they win the rest of their game.
Sounds pretty good. Sounds pretty good. Pop quiz then, just as I mentioned it. What's the mascot, Dad?
Believe Mechanicsburg would be the Indians.
That would be correct.
All right.
Good job.
So, for those of you who listened last week, and Rebekah is probably not one of them, she was
Oh,
busy with work. No, okay. Her co-host, Alex Trumbull, suggested that there's really no reason we need to go in the same order every week. And I thought, we're far enough in the playoffs, we could change things up a little this week.
out of order?
Out of
How
order.
will people know when to skip to in the podcast?
That's part of the reason I thought we could try it. They might have to listen to the whole thing. So here's what we're going to do. Sparing no expense as always, I went down to the basement and I found this.
For the audio only listeners, which is everybody but me, he's spinning a bingo ball thing that's got the little marbles inside.
Absolutely, I do. I have one marble in for each of our regions. By the way, for those of you who are interested in details, like I'm sure my daughter Alex is, for the 8-man football region, we are using number 068, by the way, because we already have a region 8 that we follow. So ready? So I'm going to turn the first one. We'll see where we start.
Oh no. Now I understand why there's
Whoa.
numbers in the script.
I-23. We get to start with a
23.
we get to start with a quick region.
Oh, this is a mess. Okay, 23. I'm there.
So Division 6, Region 23.
Mechanicsburg.
It's Mechanicsburg. How about that? We talked about number 13, 5-1 Mechanicsburg at the start of the episode. The Indians, hey, maybe that's why I knew it, Rebekah,
Maybe.
they guarantee themselves a playoff spot with a win over 4-2 Milford Center Fairbanks this week. I did receive one other fan feedback this week who
Wow.
said I used the word weak too much.
That's
So
a
I'll work
hard
on
one
that.
to avoid.
It certainly is.
This episode, this time period,
Yeah.
this instance.
Back to Mechanicsburg, even with a loss to Fairbanks, they still have a 92% chance to get into the playoffs. Woohoo, that was easy. Region 23. Our next region, B12. Scroll, scroll, scroll.
Scroll, scroll, scroll.
Okay, Division 3, Region 12. We're going to start with the number one team at the moment, Tippecanoe, and the number two team, Wapakoneta. They are newly purple on our notes, which means they are guaranteed to finish the season in at least the top 8 and host a playoff game. Tippecanoe is 6-0. They really should win at least the next 3 games and end up with the number one seed in this region. 6-0 Wapakoneta is now favored by 4 or more touchdowns the rest of the season, which should earn them the number 2 or perhaps number 3 seed. Look out for Cincinnati Archbishop McNicholas coming up to catch them from behind. They are currently number 6, but look to be moving up before the season ends. 4-2 St. Mary's inched up a spot to number 8 and are 3 or more touchdown favorites in their final 4 games. To earn a home playoff game, the Rough Riders probably need to win all 4 of those matchups. But as heavy favorites, you would think that's quite likely, correct?
Usually.
4-2 Bellefontaine dropped 3 places to number 9 and has our incomprehensible stat of the week.
Okay. Is that a new one?
According to Drew Pasteur's Fantastic 50, if they defeat winless Tecumseh this week, they are 99% certain to make the playoffs. If they lose, they are 100% certain. I've looked and looked and looked, and I have no idea how that darn computer says that. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No, I got nothing.
Nope. I thought I had it, and then I looked at it again, and I said, nope, that's wrong. So
Maybe
I'm
Tecumseh getting points bumps someone else out of the way?
think that's I, no, I can't
No,
come up with one.
I don't.
So we'll put it this way: realistically, Belfountain's in the playoffs. How about that? Just maybe not a mathematical line.
Yeah, let's go with that.
4-2 Salina dropped 4 spots to number 14 as they suffered an upset loss to 2-4 Elida. I think the computers had Salina favored by about 4 touchdowns in that game, so it was quite the upset. Whether it was weather related or not, I really couldn't tell you, and to be honest, they probably couldn't either. The next game against 4-2 Lima Bath is the last time that the Salina Bulldogs are favored this season. A victory in this game gives Salina a 79% chance at the postseason, while a loss drops the odds slightly below 50%. So might be a good idea for Salina to get a win this week.
I've realized
And
with the way we're doing this, I have no idea to tell how far.
yes, is that an advantage or a disadvantage?
I think it should be a joy to do this forever with you with no end, but instead it's a special kind of torture. I
Well,
don't know.
this may be the one and only time we do this.
Maybe we can randomize it for the listeners in the future, but not for us.
Oh, you want me to do the work of moving everything during the editing phase, right?
I mean, heck, I might even do the work of moving. I might do any work on this podcast whatsoever to not have to do this again.
All right, that's one vote for no in the future. But as of this moment, our next ball is I-20. So Division 5, Region 20.
Okay.
We shall start with 5-1 West Liberty Salem. They were the big winner in this region last weekend, moving up 6 positions to number 6 after a 24-21 victory over 4-2 Springfield Northeastern. This win also ensures the Tigers will be in the playoffs. So big win for West Liberty Salem. Now for 5-1 Versailles, it was their turn to take a loss courtesy of Marion Local.
Everyone's got to get their knocks.
This knocked the Tigers down 1 place to number 3, so not a huge drop. Versailles needs 2 more wins to ensure a home playoff game. They are actually underdogs in 2 games, and they have 2 games that are 50-50 type matchups. One of them is this week when they face 4-2 Anna. 4-2 Lima Bath fell from number 5 to number 7 after getting shut out by a surging 3-3 Ottawa Glandorf team. And they get to face what I presume to be an angry 4-2 Salina squad next. Angry.
And surging. A sentence for nice gerunds?
Ooh.
Descriptors.
I'm not sure. I remember the word gerund from school. I don't remember.
I think gerund is the ing verbs.
Ooh, that could be. All right.
Grammar in your sports podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it was never my strong suit. That's for certain. Back to Lima Bath. This is their best chance at another win this week against Salina and would probably guarantee postseason play. Even if they lose the final 4 games, they probably sneak into the playoffs with a number 15 seed. Next up, we have Indian Lake. Their game against winless Ben Logan is almost irrelevant, as most games against winless teams are, at least as far as Indian Lake's playoff chances are concerned. The Lakers are currently number 9 and may be a little lower after the weekend. They have more important games, which will follow to finish the season. So we'll be talking more about Indian Lake the next couple. 3-3 Miami East fell 3 spots to number 10 after losing their 3rd game in a row. This time to 3-3 Milton Union. The Vikings also play a fairly irrelevant game against a winless team in Troy Christian. They are probably in the playoffs, but will need a win after this week to lock it down mathematically. Speaking of Milton Union, they are number 15. They gained very good computer points, but no positions in the standings from that win over Miami East. 1 more win should solidify the Bulldogs' postseason hopes, and their game against 3-3 Covington provides this opportunity. The last team we'll discuss here, 4-2 Arcanum. moved up from number 14 to number 13 thanks to a 14-13 victory over 3-3 National Trail. Arcanum are big underdogs the next two games and might need the few computer points available from playing an 0-6 and a 1-5 team to end the season. Their next number, I-24. So Division 6, Region 24.
Aha.
We'll start with 6-0 Coldwater. They are certain to finish in the top two in this region. That
They've
doesn't
locked
mean
in the
any more
top
than
two.
yes, they have.
Wow.
They will more probably be the top seed. There's an outside shot they could fall to number two. I'm not counting on it. Odds are they will be hosting National Trail, Dayton Christian, Lima Perry, or Covington in the first round of the playoffs. 4-2 Anna. They are currently number 3. They need 2 more wins to be sure to host a playoff game. The best chances for that are on weeks 9 and 10 against 1-5 opponents. Win over 5-1 Versailles this week should give the Rockets 2 home postseason games. So the game against Versailles, more valuable computer points wise than both of those final 2 games to end the season. Next, we have 3-3 Covington. They are a 2 or more touchdown underdog in their final 4 games, but need to win one of those games to grab a playoff. If they lose out, there's still about a 1-3 chance they can sneak in with that big long losing streak.
Oh,
It'd be a lot better to grab a win somewhere along.
it usually is.
And we have 3-3 Lima Perry. They are now on the cut line at number 16 in the standings. The Commodores have a 50% chance to make the playoffs if they beat 2 1-5 teams on their schedule. Their big
Seems
game,
like a good chance.
yeah, it does seem like a good chance. Their big game on the schedule will be week 9 when they host 3-3 Marion Elgin. So if they win that one, then those 1-5 team games don't matter quite so much. Wow, look at all those balls we have left, Rebekah.
There's so many left, and I can't see any of them.
22. Division 6, Region 22. It's one of the big
It's a
ones.
long one. Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. We'll start again, not with the top team we cover, but 4-2 Sherwood Fairview, because they rose 6 places to number 8
Ooh,
after a 21-19 win over previously undefeated Paulding. This allows the Apaches to join number 3 Bluffton and number 5 Patrick Henry as officially playoff bound. Fairview is expected to win out, which would likely have them earn a number 6 seed in the final standings. That loss, by the way, dropped 5-1 Paulding 5 runs down the ladder to number 11 in the standings. We talked last week about why they were only number 6 with an undefeated record due to the lack of strength of schedule.
mm-hmm.
So a loss drops them even further. A win in a game where they are 17-point favorites over 4-2 Edgerton will put the Panthers mathematically into the postseason. So big week for coming up for Paulding. Back to undefeated Bluffton. They are likely secure in a top 4 seed if they win the next 3 games as expected. A victory over Columbus Grove in week 10 should get Bluffton the number 2 seed in the final standings. 5-1 Patrick Henry as their toughest opponent of the season visiting Friday when 6-0 Liberty Center arrives. The Patriots probably need an upset win in this game if they wish to end the season in the top 4 of the standings. Number 9 Spencerville has now lost 3 games in a row and are underdogs in their next 3.
I think they're embracing their mascot a little too hard.
The Bearcats, as Rebekah refers to, look destined to be about the number 12 or number 13 seed when the regular season comes to an end. Number 10 Tenora rose 2 spots after winning their 3rd in a row and are favored in their final 4 games. Their week 9 game at Paulding will probably decide if Tenora earns a home playoff game. Next, we have 2 3-3 teams, number 12 Van Buren and number 15 Allen East, who fell several positions in the standings after losses. Van Buren still has 2 winless teams on their schedule and wins in those games give them a 50% chance at the playoffs. Allen East is probably in the postseason if they can defeat 3-3 Spencerville. Another 3-3 team, Convoy Crestview, beat 1-5 Delphus Jefferson to reach number 16 in the standings. That's always the magic number. You want to get up to that number 16 spot.
Everything else is just icing on the cake, unless you're facing off
Unfortunately,
against Marion Local.
well, in this one, you get probably, who'd I say, Bluffton instead? Something.
Not much better.
We'll determine that later. Unfortunately, undefeated Bluffton and Columbus Grove will wait in the next two games for Convoy Crestview.
A preview for
2-4 Wayne Trace is closing in on the playoffs. Maybe. As their win over 2-4 Hicksville moved them up to number 17. They're closing in on that number 16 spot. The win over 3-3 Tenora just about puts the Raiders into the postseason, while a loss drops their odds below 50%. It wasn't so bad, was it?
not too bad, but there's some big ones still lurking back there. What have we got?
Speaking of which, the next number is 26.
None of the low ones I'm noticing.
It's amazing. Well, at least the order is actually getting mixed up, huh?
It is. That is kind of nice. I'll admit it.
Okay, Division 7, Region 26.
Huh. And look at that. We're talking about Columbus Grove.
How
Funny
about
how
that?
this is working.
The top 12 teams in the standings right now are guaranteed to make the playoffs.
Ooh,
That
that's not a
means
lot of room for the other teams to fight over.
that's right. There's only 4 spots left for everyone else to go after. We will start with those top 12 teams. Number 1, Columbus Grove. I still expect them to win the region with the top seed. And right now, it looks like their first round playoff victim is most likely North Baltimore. There's plenty of time for that to change. 5-1, Upper Saudo Valley moved up 6 positions to number 4 by defeating 4-2 Ridgemont. A home playoff game is likely, and a top 4 finish is happening with wins in their final 4 games, all of which the Rams are favored to win. 5-1 Ada fell 3 spots to number 6 after defeating winless Arcadia. That tends to happen. 3 more wins should earn the Bulldogs that much sought after home playoff game.
And that's what we're fighting for now in the top 12.
Yes, it is.
Top 8.
5-1 Hardin Northern remain number 8 in the standings after beating 1-5 Ridgedale. That when you beat a team that's about 1-5, you tend to stay put in the standings. Meanwhile, 4-2 Pandora Gilboa fell 1 spot to number 10 after they beat winless Elmwood. 4-2 Lima Central Catholic dropped 6 places to number 9 after losing to Bluffton. If the Thunderbirds can win all except for their game against Columbus Grove, they have a 50% chance to return to the top 8. We have 2 more yet. Arlington, already playoff bound, has lost 3 in a row and dropped 4 places to number 11. The Red Devils need to win their final 4 games to return to the top 8. Drew Pasteur says they have about a 15% chance to do so. So probably a road trip week 1 for Arlington. Number 12, 4-2 Macomb is our last team already in the playoffs. They are favored in all 4 remaining games. Not too many second level points in those games, however. I do not believe they will make the top 8, even with winning out those 4 games. Next, we have 4-2 Leipzig, currently number 13. They need 1 more win to lock up one of those 4 remaining playoff spots. They have 3 50-50 type games remaining, starting with a game against Macomb this week. Next, we have 2-4 Delphi St. John's. They are probably grabbing one of those open playoff spots, even if the Blue Jays lose their last 4 games. They are still just rolling in second level points from that week 1 win over 5-1 Sidney Lehman. Sidney Lehman, by the way, is favored in at least 3 of their final 4 games also. So the points are going to keep rolling
coming in. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Sounds about right.
If St. John's can get a week 9 win over 1-5 Parkway, that should pretty much mathematically lock things up.
So that's 2 of our last 4 spots. Do we have any guesses on the other 2?
Well, my best guess is that it will not be 1-5 Delphus Jefferson, 1-5 Corey Rawson, 0-6 Defiance Ayersville, 0-6 Arcadia, or 0-6 Van Loo.
Eee.
I think it'll be two teams that we do not follow. North
Oof.
Baltimore feels like one of them, by the way.
A little tip?
Ooh,
Doo-doo. Where to next? Surely a low
68.
number. Aha!
That means 8-man football.
All the way down.
All the way down. Scroll, 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 scroll. Down to page 9 of my notes for this.
Mine doesn't show pages, it just scrolls forever.
I am saving so many trees since I went paperless on this podcast.
Yeah.
Our top 3 teams of Toledo Christian, Sandusky St. Mary, and Holgate all won this week and are now 3-0 in conference play. They look pretty much like they will be 3 of our 4 playoff teams in 8-man football. Southington Chalker and Fremont St. Joseph are the only other teams with a conference win. And Southington Chalker defeated Fremont St. Joe in their conference game. So that makes them, at the moment, perhaps the best guess favorite for that 4th and final playoff team.
We go.
There you go, Rebekah. B8.
A single digit number. All the way back
Sends
up
us,
we go.
that sends us to Division 2, Region 8.
Aha.
We'll start with 6-0 Lima Senior, a dominant win again this week. And with it, they drop a spot back down to number 6. And number 6 is where I expect them to end the season after they rack up 4 more dominant wins in their conference play. At number 12, we have Sydney, currently 4-2. They fell 1 position after beating winless Greenville. And Sydney probably needs an upset in the final 4 weeks to make the postseason. Their best hope appears to be in week 9 when they play at Piqua. Number 15, Piqua, by the way, needs 3 more wins to ensure their playoff spot. I think they'll get 2 of them. The third one that they need is probably that week 9 game against Sydney. So that week 9, we may have an elimination game. Winner in, loser out.
Ooh. Do like the drama.
And we have number 14, Troy. Moved up 5 positions after beating 2-4 Piqua in their big rivalry game. The Trojans are definitely in the playoffs with a win over 6-0 Xenia. But in case they can't defeat that undefeated team, they are almost locked in even if they lose. So Troy's been slow start, but moving up rapidly.
Onwards and upwards. What's our next region? 1, 10,
14.
14. Not too far. I'll take it.
Okay, Division 4, Region 14. We'll go with 3-3 Ottawa Glandorf, or as I said earlier, surging Ottawa Glandorf.
Surging.
They rose 5 places to number 11 after a slight upset win over 4-2 Lima Bath. The Titans will be close to ensuring a spot in the postseason with a win over 1-5 Van Wert. 3-3 Napoleon suffered a slight upset loss to 2-4 Fremont Ross. The drop down to number 13. I was not expecting that one, to be honest. The Wildcats can almost lock up a playoff berth if they can get a win over 2-4 Toledo Boucher.
Boucher.
Wasn't that like the guy that you went against on one of those Super Mario games?
Bowser. Yeah.
Bowser. Okay.
I'm sure they have many jokes about that. If that's not their unofficial mascot, I'll eat my hat.
Next, we have 2-4 Elida, looking very bad for the playoffs 2 weeks ago. They pulled off a huge upset win over 4-2 Salina to climb 5 spots to number 15. They still only have about a 50% chance to make the playoffs, likely needing another win while being underdogs in their next 3 games. So need a win in one of those 3 games where they are an underdog. And then their game against 1-5 Van Wert to wrap up the regular season may or may not matter, but they should be favored. 1-5 Kenton, 1-5 Van Wert. They just keep inching a little closer to ending their season after week 10.
Oh no, need a drastic turnaround that may not happen.
Right. Our next number is 075.
The scores of the week?
Scores of the week.
Yes, that is our scores of the week segment. I did not
Woo!
mention that ahead of time, did I?
No, but I can read the script, and I figured it out.
Speaking of our scores of the week, during our last episode, Phil and co host Alex told me I was using too many Minster scores in the scores of the week segment.
Yeah, we're a little bit guilty of favoritism here.
So I guess I cannot use Minster's 12-7 win over St. Henry, where they scored the game winning touchdown on a 25-yard pass with just 18 seconds and no timeout.
You're
Can't
the
use that one.
worst. You are the worst. But hey, at least there's not seven scores to read through here.
No, we will go to two scores that we have actually mentioned earlier in the podcast, but we did not know whether we would have mentioned them earlier in the podcast. We will start with Sherwood Fairview 21, Paulding 19. This was Paulding's first loss of the season. Fairview led 14-13 after the first quarter and expanded the lead to 21-13 after three quarters. With just over 4 minutes remaining, Paulding blocked a punt and recovered it in the end zone to get within 2 points. Failed to convert the 2 point conversion run. With less than a minute to go in the game and facing a 4th down and 7, Fairview said, we're not doing that punt thing again. We're going to go for it. And they received a pass interference call on Paulding to get the first down and seal the win. So
Oof.
kind of a gutsy move there, but
Yeah.
considering the wind and I don't know if they had the rain, but I know everyone had the wind. Maybe that long snap back to the punter, avoiding that was a good idea. Huh?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Our other score of the week, Arcanum 14, National Trail 13. Most of the scoring in this game came in one big flurry. In the second quarter, the team scored 19 points in a 2 minute span to give National Trail a 13-6 lead. Arcanum would connect on a 56-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter. The 2 point conversion pass was good and gave Arcanum the 14-13 win. Very dramatic game there for the Trojans of Arcanum.
Absolutely.
Oops.
Drum roll.
B1.
Woo, nice. I don't have to scroll at all.
Division 1, Region 1. Number 8, Findlay is a big underdog the next 3 weeks and plays a winless school in week 10. So I am expecting the 3-3 Trojans to drop 3 to 5 spots in the standings the rest of the season. Probably end up about 11, 12, 13, somewhere like that. Onward.
Onward.
Division 4, Region 16.
Ah, another short one.
In Division 4, we will start with Urbana, currently number 9. They dropped 4 places after taking their first loss to 4-2 Jonathan Alder. The Hill Climbers are slightly favored over undefeated Kenton Ridge this week. And if they get that win, that would about lock up their playoff, as you might imagine.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
Our other team is 2-4 Bethel. They also dropped 4 positions to number 21. The Bees need to earn 3 more wins to keep postseason hopes alive. And they
The
are
Bethel
double-digit
Bees.
underdogs the next 3 games. You got to love the Bethel Bees, don't you?
How did I not know they were the Bethel Bees? Oh, that's fantastic. I've definitely seen their images before. I just assume it was something like the Hornets
Like a
or the
hornet, like Kirtland,
Yellow
the hornet.
Jackets. But
Ooh,
no,
like Sydney, huh?
bees.
The
They sting
bees.
you once and then they die.
and leave you with a batch of honey.
Leave you with honey and pollinated plants. Oh, that's so good.
It's it's definitely one of the fiercest mascots out there, huh?
Hey, if they're attacking you, that means they really, really want you hurt because it'll kill them.
Yeah.
You
But
messed
they
up
must
if
have
they're
some,
attacking you.
but I can just see it now. The Bethel Bees. Fear the sting.
Beware the
Maybe it'd be
buzz.
maybe it'd be feel the sting. Beware the buzz. I like that. Well, we've spoiled Rebekah. Our next one is number 28.
Ah.
That's a lot of scrolling.
Good thing I've got the freewheeling scroll thing, so I just flick it once and it goes.
So Division 7, Region 28. Unlike a previous region we did, it is only the top 11 teams in these standings who are guaranteed to make the playoffs. So that leaves five open playoff spots yet in this region.
Ooh.
The only changes in playoff status among our teams is that Fort Laramie is now in the playoffs, and Minster is now guaranteed to finish in the top eight and get a home game. And that's good news for the Wildcat Band Boosters since there were only four home games on the schedule this year. At least number five will be coming. We'll start with the masters of this region, 6-0 Marion Local. They remain number one, and they should stay there even if they have a loss or two.
Are we anticipating a loss?
No, they are not.
I didn't think so.
They do have games against 5-1 Minster and 6-0 Coldwater coming up, so I guess
Sure.
it's always possible.
And I'm sure they'll be closer than most of the other games.
Yeah, but boy, they took it to Versailles in the wind and the mud last week, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Speaking of Minster, at 5-1, they moved up to number two after their dramatic win over 2-4 St.
Ooh.
Henry. The Wildcats have big games against 4-2 New Bremen and 5-1 Versailles the next 2 weeks. If they win both as they are favored, they should finish in the top four, and they perhaps may finish that high even if they split those games, which is also not unlikely. 5-1 Sidney Lehman is now number three and should also finish in the top four if they can defeat 3-3 DeGraff Riverside. Seems doable. 4-2 New Bremen fell three spots to number five after defeating 1-5 Fort Recovery.
Not enough
Another,
points on the win there, huh?
yeah, another tight game. It was a 14-12 win for New Bremen. The computer points don't care about that, of course.
They don't. This isn't soccer. We don't really care about point differential.
No, we do not.
Or rugby. Fun
Although,
fact.
as we mentioned, well, rugby too, point differential. As we mentioned last week, that is like the sixth or seventh tiebreaker for playoff spots in eight-man football. However, is
True.
the number of touchdowns scored or that kind of stuff.
It makes sense.
Back to New Bremen. If they wish to finish in the top eight, the Cardinals probably need to defeat two of the following three teams: Minster, St. Henry, and 2-4 Delphi St. John's. They can get two wins out of that batch. They look good for hosting a playoff game. 5-1 Ansonia is now up to number six, and the Tigers should stay there if they win the three games they are favored in the final 4 weeks of the season here. 3-3 Fort Laramie, as we mentioned, newly playoff bound, regained the four spots they dropped the previous week thanks to a win over 3-3 Spencerville. It'll be tough for the Redskins to finish in the top eight as Columbus Grove and Bluffton are next.
That's not going to help them out. Unless they do a really big upset.
And then it'll help them out a lot.
It'll help them out a lot.
4-2 Waynesfield Goshen is currently number eight and should stay in the top eight as they are favored in the final 4 games. But even with those wins, it is unlikely for the Tigers to crack the top four. 4-2 Ridgemont fell 3 spots to number 9 after their loss to 5-1 Upper Scioto Valley. They had a big opportunity, but it was against a tough team. To finish in the top eight, the Golden Gophers, and I have to admit, I didn't realize we had a Golden Gophers in Ohio.
Oh, that's almost as good as the Bethel Bees.
Anyway, to finish in the top eight, the Ridgemont Golden Gophers probably need a mild upset over 5-1 Hardin Northern this week, or 4-2 Waynesfield Goshen in week 10. 3-3 DeGraff Riverside has what I would consider season-defining games against 5-1 Sidney Lehman and 3-3 Miami East in their next 2 games. Winning both should get Riverside into the top eight. If they split those games, they will need an upset of 3-3 Milton Union in week 10 to earn that home playoff game.
And if they lose those games, no chance?
They're still in the playoffs, just
they're
not going to be at home anymore. Let's see. Tri-Village rose 3 places to number 11, our final of the teams locked into the playoffs in this region. With their 4th win of the season, the Patriots are favored big in the remaining 4 games, which gives them about a 50-50 shot at moving into the top 8 and hosting a home playoff game. And next we have St. Henry at 2-4. They've been very close the last 2 weeks against Anna and Minster, but losses have landed them at number 13 in the standings. The win over 1-5 Parkway puts the Redskins in the playoffs. They probably need to win that game and sweep 2-4 Delphi St. John's, 4-2 New Bremen, and 5-1 Versailles if they wish to host a playoff. Though more likely for St. Henry is probably going to be a road trip somewhere.
Mm-hmm. All right, we made it through our biggest region
Yes.
and our highest numbers.
Next is Region 10. That would be Division 3, Region 10.
The last one's left.
Oh, our always interesting friends from Defiance, currently 4-2. They fell to number 7 from number 6 after beating 1-5 Kenton, but they are favored by double digits in their next 3 games. Just winning 2 of those should keep the Bulldogs in the top 8, and they could reach the top 4 if they win all 3 and also defeat 3-3 Ottawa Glandorf in Week 10. On our heading in the other direction team in this region, 2-4 Lima Shawnee stays at 13 after a loss and has another tough matchup with 4-2 St. Mary's. I believe they lost to Wapakoneta this week, so 2 tough games in a row. The Indians need another win to have a 50% shot at the playoffs, and they are light underdogs against 2 1-5 teams later this season.
Underdogs.
Light underdogs. So, yeah, you would think they could get one of those wins, right? Odds aren't too bad.
Odds are not too bad.
So they have like
great.
a 50%. Yeah, they have like a 50% chance of doing good enough to have a 50% chance to make the playoffs.
Oh boy.
My math tells me that's about a 25% chance, right?
Sure.
Hey, look at this. There's one ball left in the bingo wheel here. Do you remember what it is?
Number 18.
Is it? I have no idea.
It should be. Otherwise, I've been putting little marks on the wrong ones.
Oh, I have not been putting marks on this. Number 18, as Alex decided last week or maybe the week before, this is our Liberty region.
It's apt, I would say.
We'll start with 6-0 Liberty Center. They win big again and dropped 2 places down to number 4. They face their last big challenge of the regular season as they visit 5-1 Patrick Henry this week. A win, and I'm guessing the Tigers end up as the number 1 seed in this region. Our other team, 5-1 Liberty Benton, rose 3 positions to number 7 after shutting out 3-3 Arlington.
Nice.
The Eagles are favored to easily win their final 4 games, but are still unlikely to finish higher than 5th in the final computer points.
Dun, dun,
and that does it, Rebekah.
We did it. I'm actually not that opposed to the randomness.
Well, that was the next question. How do you feel about it now?
I'll let the listeners decide, I think.
All right. We'll leave the bingo wheel out here just in case.
It was fun to see.
We may be back to normal next week. We shall see. But anyway, that wraps up week 6. It's been a while. Would you like to throw us through the
credits?
Legalese?
I would love to give it a shot. Let me know if my computer rejects me. Thank you all again for listening. If you have any comments or questions for us, it can be sent to us on email by sending it to bdmonnin@nktelco.net, or you can submit it on X to @BruceMonnin. You can also place your thoughts in the comment section of our YouTube page. That's a great place for a conversation. Occasionally we'll check it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you find your podcasts, except for Spotify. Don't do that one. We'll figure it out someday. It might be 10 years from now. But you can do it on the Apple iTunes Store, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, or the YouTube channel itself. All you need to do is search for Bruce Monnin's Computer Points. It'll pop right up.
All right. We will return next week after week 7 of the regular season. Just a warning, this is Oktoberfest weekend in Minster.
Ein Prosit, der Gemüse.
you never know how quick things will get done afterwards. We tend to move a little slow around here after October.
On the other hand, if you happen to be in the Minster area for Oktoberfest, you can come and give us your comments directly in person. We're usually pretty present.
I imagine Saturday afternoon, early afternoon, I will probably be in the whatever the beer tent is on the north side of the park, where all the good craft beers are. 3:30, there's a UC football game. I may be up there watching on some television, unless there's something weird like an Ohio State game at the same time that every television set gets turned to.
That might be an issue.
But
You also
big
might
game
find us
against,
Saturday night dancing on a table, depending on if our favorite band is there.
yeah, whoever that may be. I hear
Karma's
there's a large,
Pawn.
well, that's Friday night, I think.
That's Friday night? Friday night. I will not be dancing on Saturday night.
But anyway, I hear there's a big group of party people coming in from Columbus, so good
Ooh,
times for all. And if you want to see us there, look for a guy in a University of Cincinnati outfit. You'll probably find me. If you ever want to know where our house is, look for the 2 inflatable bear cats in the front yard.
two.
2.
One was not enough.
And with the good rain, I think I can actually get the supports into the ground now.
Nice.
So anyway, that wraps this week up. We'll see you next week. So long, everybody.